Can the iPhone be beaten by the Huawei Pura 70 Ultra in terms of video? I'm recording 4K 60 frames per second here on the Huawei Pura 70 Ultra. And I have the possibility, you can see a bit of HDR, during recording of 4K 60 frames per second, switch to the ultra wide angle. So let's do this. This is the ultra wide angle here. What do you think about this one here? And of course, if I want to zoom in on something, I can zoom in on stuff. So let's try to zoom in on this Porsche there in the times zoom, which switches to the telezoom lens, and times zoom, which is now reached. And yeah, it struggles a bit with focusing. I manually tap focus, this works fine. And this is a 10 times zoom on the Pura 70 Ultra. What do you think? Now I'm recording 4K 60 frames per second on the iPhone 16 Pro. The iPhone 16 Pro only allows me to record 4K 60 if I have high efficiency, so HEVC codec activated. It's not allowing me to do this in H.264, which is a bit of a bummer. Now let's try to switch to the ultra wide angle. You see a bit of HDR here going on. So this is the ultra wide angle here on the iPhone 16 Pro. How well is this doing in comparison to the Pura 70 Ultra? And of course we want to try a little zoom test here as well at 4K 60 frames per second to see how well the 5 times zoom on the iPhone 16 Pro is working. So I can directly go to 5 times optical zoom here, and this is how it looks like. And then I can zoom in up to 15 times, so a bit closer than the Pura. Let's go up to 10 times that we reached now on the iPhone 16 Pro. Doesn't struggle with the focus so much, and I think it looks a bit clearer. What do you think about the recording here with 4K 60 on the iPhone 16 Pro? And of course I can also record front-facing video 4K 60 frames per second and even have autofocus. So if I have the iPhone here, it can focus on the iPhone and then gladly back onto my face without any issues. So what do you think about the 4K 60 frames per second recording here on the front-facing camera of the Pura 70 Ultra? And now the sun sadly hides behind the clouds, but nevertheless we have the we have the front-facing camera on the iPhone 16 Pro at 4K 60 frames per second. Of course it can also do 4K 60 frames per second, and of course it also has autofocus. Now it's a bit unfair because the sun is not shining, but you can see it's also focusing on the Pura 70 Ultra without any issue. And yeah, what do you think? Which one is better here? 4K 60 frames per second on the iPhone 16 Pro. Taking a look at the front-facing video, I'm quite surprised. If you would have asked me before, I would say maybe the iPhone 16 Pro will win there. It doesn't have this wide field of view, probably has slightly better autofocus. But no, it looks like completely different here. The Pura 70 Ultra is winning the race. And why is that the case here? Mainly due to bad HDR on the iPhone 16 Pro. And I'm not sure what's going on there on the iPhone 16 Pro. Maybe at 4K 60 frames per second, it doesn't have the possibility to record HDR-ish kind of video in SDR or bake in the HDR like the Pura 70 Ultra can do with the sky here, which is the real sky there. When it comes to detail levels and so on, yes, it's not completely fair because the sun was there and it was hiding here on the iPhone when I was recording this behind the clouds. But you can see as well that the Pura 70 Ultra in its 0.8 times magnification, default one, is a bit wider. And a bit more contrasty for sure as well, and a bit more punchy colors as well. It looks a bit flat on the iPhone 16 Pro, to be completely honest. And the other thing is, in terms of sharpness and so on, I think the Pura 70 Ultra is overdoing it a slight bit there with the sharpness, and sometimes it's a bit, too soft as well. Where the iPhone 16 Pro keeps also a very soft but consistent sharpness on my face. Where the Pura 70 Ultra sometimes can, like it's focus pumping or something like this. It's not really focus pumping, but sometimes it's as if the algorithm is like sharpening up my face a little bit when it detects it, but when I walk a little bit too much and in between frames, it gets a bit softer. And this is what the iPhone 16 Pro has nailed, because it doesn't have this effect. But in general, again, I think with the flexibility of the Pura 70 Ultra to go to even ultra wider angle of view, to go to the same angle of view as the iPhone 16 Pro, to have the same autofocus, to have HDR at 4K 60 frames per second, I think it's a win for the Pura 70 Ultra. Main camera sensors are working a bit differently. As you see here, the iPhone 16 Pro has much more punchy colors. It was sunny again, same sun now outside, not much of a difference, but you can see the green grass there is much more punchy than on the Pura 70 Ultra. And you can also see a bit more warmth, red and yellow in my face there, where it's a bit more greenish and more pale looking on the Pura 70 Ultra. Again, there's slightly bit more contrast. Look at the tree there on the Pura 70 Ultra. The Pura 70 Ultra is again a bit wider, as it seems. And the iPhone 16 Pro, or maybe I just had a different kind of angle there, could be as well. But you can also see that both the iPhone 16 Pro and the Pura 70 Ultra struggle a little bit with the overexposing in the sky there, where the sun was. The rest is basically the same. Stabilization, I think, slightly bit better there on the iPhone. And we have to play back the iPhone, as it seems like this MOV file is not compatible with my video editor. As you can see here, this is how stability looks like on the iPhone 16 Pro. It's quite good, I would say. Not much of shaking going on, and it's quite fluid. What I really like on the iPhone is the sharpness and the detail level is basically the same all the times, throughout the frames, where the Pura 70 Ultra also has sometimes struggles a bit with in-between frames that are a bit blurry, out of focus there. This is something that the Pura 70 Ultra doesn't do so well. When it comes to the animation of going out here and to the ultra-wide angle, both are doing a fantastic job, and there's not much of a difference. When you compare those two again with each other, let's go like roughly the same kind of angle there. There we go. You can see that we have a bit more contrast again on the Pura 70 Ultra. I think the Pura 70 Ultra optically is a bit worse than the iPhone 16 Pro, though both have a bit of distortion there, especially on the edges. But because there's a bit more sharpening applied on the Pura 70 Ultra, and the Pura 70 Ultra struggles with its ultra-wide angle and colors especially, you can see I look even more pale here, and the liveliness of the greens there is visible, so it's like desaturated. So this is like a typical issue that you see with ultra wide angles that are ultra wide, but they're missing a bit of color, and this is what we see here on the 70 Ultra. The 16 Pro is doing a lot better there, even though I think it's a bit too punchy still with the colors. It's doing a bit better there when it comes to the ultra wide angle for sure. And when we take a look at the zoom capabilities, and then especially the quality when zooming in, which is quite interesting. Let me try to pause at the right position there on the iPhone. You can see that it's quite good. And when I compare it here, this is 5 times optical, directly jump to 5 times optical. When I compare it with the Pura 70 Ultra, which has 3.5 times optical zoom, you can see that now we have almost the same kind of zoom level. There's a slight difference because 3.5 times zoom is from the 27 millimeters by default, and 5 times on the iPhone 16 Pro is from 24 millimeters as far as I'm aware. So you can see that we have a slightly different white balance there. We have a bit more bluish colors, a bit more greenish, warmer kind of tone on the Pura 70 Ultra. The Pura 70 Ultra's telezoom struggles a bit with a bit overexposure. That might be the large aperture that it has, so it is struggling there with the overexposure there, which looks a bit cleaner there on the iPhone. In general, which one would you prefer? I like the more bluish tones that we have there on the iPhone, and then of course the Pura 70 Ultra struggles a little bit with the clarity when we zoom in a little bit further. Now I missed this of course again on the iPhone 16 Pro, but yes, let me try a different video editor eventually. There we go, so we can compare this a bit better. Yeah, those original MOV files can be a bit tedious on the iPhone. I can see it now. As you can see here, this looks way better on the iPhone than on the Pura 70 Ultra at this zoom level. but the Pura 70 Ultra is struggling a bit with the focusing. So as soon as I tap to focus at one point, it gets also at least sharp, but the detail level, it cannot. There we go. Now it gets sharp, and as you can see here, this is now way better and way more comparable. So for some reason, the reflection probably here was giving some issues on the Pura 70 Ultra's telezoom lens. But now it's way more comparable, but here you can see way more the difference between those two in terms of white balance and overexposure here on the Pura 70 Ultra, where the iPhone 16 Pro doesn't struggle with this. And you can also see that, yeah, this is a bit more bluish here. This is a bit more warmish, greenish, yellowish there for sure. The detail level, however, is comparable, but which one would you choose here for your video when it comes to zoom in shots? I think I will stick to the iPhone there. But I really have to say, if you don't have them side by side, probably you will be happy with both of them. It's just a matter of taste, probably, and what you saw with your own eyes. What I saw with my own eyes, first of all, was not this bluish reflection on this Porsche. Actually, it looked more towards what the Pura 70 Ultra is doing, but I think it's a bit too warmish, too greenish here, still on the Pura 70 Ultra. So more realistic, I would say, is more the Pura 70 Ultra, where more artistic is probably the iPhone 16 Pro. But which one is your favorite here in this regard? What do you think about this kind of comparison? Maybe it's unfair comparison, because maybe the sky was clear here and maybe there was some kind of cloud giving a little bit of a shadow to the Porsche there. What do you think about those two here? Overall, I'm pretty happy with them, and I have to say it's very neck to neck, close to close, with a slight edge maybe on the iPhone 16 Pro with the main camera sensor and the ultra wide angle especially. Main camera sensor not so much, the ultra wide angle I think. Main camera sensor, yeah, this problems when you move, that you have sometimes this in between frames a bit like soft on my face, where the iPhone can keep it sharp all the time, is quite fantastic. Never saw that before on another phone, so not sure what they're using there for this algorithm there to make this to happen and work. But yeah, which one is your favorite? Write it down in the comment section. And what we want to do now is something maybe a bit unusual. We want to compare the bitrate of those video files that are put out, and I'm ranting about the iPhone just in a second a bit as well. So here we have the video files. The MOV files are the iPhone files. Yes, I know they're not using MP4 like the rest of the world, but it's okay. It's okay. The only thing that I really struggle with is getting those MOV files onto my computer. I'm a Linux user, so I cannot use AirDrop for this. And for some reason, if you use KD Connect directly from the Albums app or the Gallery app or however they call Photos app from the iPhone, it's converting it to 30 frames per second for some reason. It's converting it. So what I had to do is like go into the Gallery app, save it to files, and then from files I use ES File Explorer to Zamba share it over to my drive. If you don't understand anything, it's straightforward if you know how to do it, but it's a bit of a shame that you have to do it like this. Why you cannot export the original file? Why does it have to be converted to 30 frames per second? And it does it all the time if I do it from the Gallery app. So I have to export it always to the Files app, and from there I can export it further. Anyway, they are using H.265, HAVC codec, both. And these are the bit rates and the differences. First of all, what you can see is we have here 60 frames per second as frame rate stated on the MOV file, where the Pura 70 Ultra's MP4 file is giving us 59.96 frames per second, more cinematic eventually. Roughly duration 1 minute. You can see there's a slight difference there in between those two. But what is more interesting is that we have a higher bitrate on the Huawei with 61 Mbits per second, where we have only 48 Mbits. So roughly 11 Mbits less in terms of bitrate, and it's using the same codec. This needs to be clear here. HEVC codec is used on both there, so we get a higher bitrate with the Huawei. That does not always translate to more details or better, but especially I think when it comes to the fast-moving subjects, fast-moving water droplets falling and so on. This little bit of bitrate might help a little bit as well with getting a bit more quality. This is with the main camera sensor, and then we have the selfies here, the front-facing camera sensor as well on both, and you can see we have, interestingly enough, also 60 frames per second here instead of 59.96 on the Huawei, the same as on the iPhone. But again, 48.7, and now here's 61.1, so it's roughly the same what we can see here in terms of the bitrate. So yes, the Huawei has the better bitrate than the iPhone, and I'm a bit complaining about the iPhone that it's making it so hard for me to get to the original files out of the phone, because I first thought the converted version did something to the HDR on the front-facing camera, but then I was double checking on the iPhone itself with the original file, and no, it just looks this washed out. So for some reason HDR is not really baked in when you're recording 60 frames per second with the front-facing camera, so keep that in mind. If you're recording in HDR, this is another thing that I have to test out eventually. When you record in HDR with the front-facing camera, then it should have probably better dynamic range than what it produces at 4K 60. So which one is your clear winner here? It's very, very hard. I'm leaning towards the Huawei when it comes to the main camera sensor, actually. Ultra wide is a win for the iPhone. Selfie is a win for the Huawei. And zoom, very close, but focusing issues on the Huawei. So the iPhone takes the lead here. Basically both this same kind of points when it comes to video here. But you be the judge, you tell me which one is better than the other one, where you see the differences, where you see struggles, and where you think one is better than the other. That's it. Until the next time. And of course there will be very detailed camera comparison coming as well, where I will compare photos with each other as well. So be prepared for this, subscribe, and until the next time, bye.